It's exactly 1:50 a.m. on May 19, 1944. The location, Pacific Ocean waters north of Bougainville Island. A 37-year-old naval officer named Walton Pendleton stands in the cramped Combat Information Center of USS England, staring into the dim phosphorescent glow of his radar screens. His sonar technician has just picked up something moving through the pitch-black waters below. A submarine, cruising steadily at 6 knots beneath the surface. This is Pendleton's first patrol commanding a warship. His track record? 0 submarine kills. But in the next 12 days, he and his crew are about to rewrite the rules of naval warfare in a way that's never been matched. And before this story ends, you'll understand why what happened next still stands as the most lethal anti-submarine campaign ever recorded. Stay with me, because this gets absolutely wild. USS England wasn't built to be famous. She was a Buckley-class destroyer escort, 77 feet shorter than the Navy's standard fleet destroyers. Think of her as the compact car in a world of luxury sedans, half the crew size, half the prestige. Built with one singular purpose: hunt enemy submarines and keep them away from Allied convoys. But here's where things get interesting. Mounted on her forward deck was something revolutionary: 24 spigot mortars arranged in neat rows. The British invented it and called it Hedgehog. And this weapon was about to change everything. For 3 decades, navies had been fighting submarines the same way. You'd roll depth charges off your stern, set the pressure fuse to your best guess of the sub's depth, and pray, really, that the submarine was still there when your explosives reached detonation depth. Want to know how well that worked? The statistics are brutal. British naval forces launched 5,174 depth charge attacks during World War II. They confirmed 85 kills. Do the math with me here. That's 1 successful kill for every 60 attacks, a 1.6% success rate. You had better odds at a casino. Why such terrible numbers? By the time your depth charges sank deep enough to explode, submarines had already moved. And here's the kicker. The explosions churned up the water so violently that sonar became completely useless for 15 minutes. Submarines escaped in that chaos every single time. Hedgehog was different. Radically different. Instead of dropping charges off your stern and losing sonar contact, Hedgehog fired projectiles 200 yards ahead of your ship in a circular pattern. Each 65-pound projectile packed 35 pounds of Torpex explosive, more powerful than TNT. But here's the brilliant part. Contact fuses. The projectiles only exploded if they physically hit something solid. If they missed, silent splash. No water disturbance, no lost sonar contact. You could immediately reposition and fire again. The early trial numbers showed a 5% success rate, which doesn't sound impressive until you compare it to the 1.6% rate of depth charges. That's 3 times more effective. But most ship captains didn't trust it. They wanted the familiar rolling thunder of traditional depth charges, even if those charges rarely killed anything. Not Pendleton. He trusted mathematics. 1 Hedgehog kill for every 5 attacks versus 1 depth charge kill for every 80? The choice was obvious. 4 days before that May 19th encounter, American codebreakers at Fleet Radio Unit Pacific intercepted and decrypted a Japanese transmission. Submarine I-16 was heading to Bougainville. Arrival time: 10 p.m., May 19th. This intelligence was gold. Perfect timing. Perfect location. England and 2 sister ships positioned themselves directly along I-16's route, like hunters waiting by a game trail. Now, if you want to find out whether Pendleton's controversial weapon actually worked against Imperial Japanese Navy submarines, and trust me, what happens next is absolutely insane, hit that subscribe button and that like right now. This story deserves to be seen. When England engaged I-16, the Japanese submarine commander immediately went into evasion mode. Radical turns, constantly changing depth, Standard Japanese tactics. The submarine commander knew he was being hunted. Pendleton's sonar operator tracked every movement while calling out ranges. First Hedgehog attack at 1:41 p.m., 24 projectiles arced through the afternoon sky and splashed into the Pacific. They sank at 23 feet per second. Silence. Complete miss. I-16 had turned. The second attack scored one hit at 130 feet. The explosion lifted England's bow out of the water, but one hit wasn't enough to kill a submarine. Third attack. Another miss. The depth finder revealed the problem. I-16 had gone deep, 325 feet, deeper than Pendleton calculated. Fourth attack. I-16 turned inside the pattern. Another miss. It's 2:33 p.m. now. Fifth attack. 4 detonations, then 6, then a massive underwater explosion. The blast lifted England's stern completely clear of the water, knocking sailors off their feet. 20 minutes later, debris started surfacing. Oil slicks, wood fragments, pieces of fabric. I-16 was destroyed. 107 Japanese sailors dead. But this was just the beginning. Fleet Radio Unit Pacific had decoded another message. The Japanese 7th Submarine Squadron had deployed 7 Type RO submarines along a patrol line designated NA. These submarines formed a picket line from Truk Island to the waters west of Manus, RO-104, RO-105, RO-106, RO-108, RO-109, RO-112, and RO-116. Each submarine carried 56 crew members. Their mission was simple but critical. Detect American carrier task forces moving toward the Marianas or Palau Islands. Admiral Somu Toyota needed eyes in the ocean. These submarines were those eyes. Commander Hamilton Haines ordered England to join destroyer escorts George and Raby. 3 ships versus 7 submarines. The odds seemed impossible, but Pendleton had just proven something crucial with I-16. 5 Hedgehog attacks, 1 kill. That's a 20% success rate, 4 times better than the early trials. The weapon worked. More importantly, the crew now believed in it. At 3:50 a.m. on May 22nd, George's radar picked up a surface contact at 15,000 yards. RO-106 was recharging her batteries on the surface. Submarines had to do this regularly to keep their electric motors running. George's searchlight caught RO-106 exposed. The submarine crash dove immediately, flooding her ballast tanks, bow angling down. Within 90 seconds, she vanished beneath the surface. George fired Hedgehog. All 24 projectiles splashed into dark water. Silence. Miss England regained sonar contact at 4:25 a.m., range 1,400 yards. RO-106 was running deep and making radical turns. Her commander knew the playbook. Turn inside the attack pattern, constantly change depth, make the Americans guess. Pendleton wasn't guessing. His sonar operator tracked every turn, calling out depth changes, range, and bearing. The data fed directly into the Hedgehog firing solution. First attack. Miss. RO-106 had turned 30 degrees during the 9 seconds it took the projectiles to sink. 9 seconds doesn't sound like much, but a submarine can move 150 feet in that time. Second attack at 5:01 a.m., 24 projectiles formed their circular pattern and sank through the darkness. 3 detonations, then a massive underwater explosion. The pressure wave rolled across the surface. England's hull shuddered. George and Raby felt it from 4,000 yards away. At sunrise, the oil slick stretched half a mile wide. Debris floated everywhere. Metal fragments, wood pieces. No survivors. Kill number 2, just 24 hours after I-16. The 3 destroyer escorts reformed their line and continued northeast along the NA patrol line. Somewhere in 3,000 square miles of ocean, another submarine was waiting. At 6:02 a.m. on May 23rd, Raby's radar detected another surface contact at 22,000 yards. The contact dove before identification. This Japanese commander had learned from RO-106's death. Stay deep. Make them guess your depth. Raby fired 4 Hedgehog attacks starting at 6:17 a.m., all misses. RO-104's commander was good. Every time projectiles splashed above him, he turned, changed depth, made the mathematics impossible. George tried next. First attack at 7:17 a.m., miss. Second, third, fourth attacks between 7:30 and 8:10 a.m., all misses. Division Commander Haynes watched England approach for her turn. Pendleton's crew had 2 kills. Raby and George had 0. The pattern was becoming obvious. Whether it was better sonar operators, faster Hedgehog crews, or more accurate firing solutions, England was the killer in this hunting group. Haynes radioed 5 words that would become Navy legend. "Oh hell, go ahead, England." Pendleton's first attack missed. RO-104 turned. But the second attack at 8:34 a.m. scored 10 detonations, maybe 12. The explosions merged into one continuous roar. Breaking up noises followed, metal tearing, bulkheads collapsing, then a major underwater explosion 3 minutes later as the submarine's batteries ruptured. Oil and debris surfaced at 10:45 a.m. Kill number 3, 72 hours into the patrol. 3 submarines destroyed, 163 Japanese sailors dead, and England still had 4 more targets ahead. At 1:20 a.m. on May 24th, Georgia's radar detected RO-116 on the surface at 15,000 yards. The submarine dove at 1:30 a.m. England established sonar contact at 1:50 a.m. The pattern was repeating: radar detection, crash dive, sonar tracking, Hedgehog attack. But RO-116's commander tried something different. Instead of going deep like most submarine commanders, 300 feet, 400 feet, maximum water cushion against explosions, he stayed shallow at 150 feet and made sharp turns. He was betting the Americans would set their firing solutions for deep targets. He bet wrong. Pendleton's sonar operator called out the shallow depth. The Hedgehog firing solution adjusted instantly. First attack at 2:14 a.m. 3 detonations, maybe 5. Not the massive explosion of previous kills, just the sound of 65-pound projectiles punching through the pressure hull at 723 feet per second, creating 3-inch holes. At 150 feet depth, seawater enters a submarine at 400 gallons per minute through a 3-inch hole. The breaking up noises weren't loud, just the groan of metal under increasing pressure as the submarine settled deeper. More holes meant more water. More water meant more weight. More weight meant the submarine sank deeper. At 300 feet, the pressure increased exponentially. More water flooded in. The temperature inside rose, 200 degrees, 300 degrees. The crew's lungs seared. Within 6 minutes, everyone aboard was dead. The submarine continued sinking. Oil and debris surfaced at 7:02 a.m. after sunrise. Small quantity at first, but the oil slick expanded over the next 24 hours into several square miles. 56 more Japanese sailors gone. Kill number 4 in just 5 days. Word reached Admiral Ernest King at the Navy Department in Washington. Chief of Naval Operations, the man who commanded every ship in the United States Navy. King read the action reports. 1 destroyer escort, 4 confirmed kills in 5 days, using a weapon most captains didn't trust. King sent a message to 3rd Fleet, simple and direct. There'll always be an England in the United States Navy. The phrase spread through the Pacific Fleet within hours. England was becoming famous. But fame brought attention, and attention brought new orders. Admiral Halsey wanted England pulled from submarine hunting on May 25th. She was too valuable to risk now. 4 kills made her crew experienced, and experienced crews were rare. Better to protect the asset and reassign her to carrier escort duty. Commander Haynes refused. 3 submarines remained on the NA line: RO-105, RO-108, and RO-109. England had killed 4 in 5 days. The mathematics said she could kill the remaining 3 in 3 more days. Pull her now, and the mission stayed incomplete. Japanese submarines would continue reporting American fleet movements. The intelligence advantage would be lost. Halsey agreed to one more patrol. At 11:03 p.m. on May 26th, Raby gained radar contact on RO-108 at 15,000 yards, 110 nautical miles northeast of Seidler Harbor. The submarine dove. England gained sonar contact at 1,650 yards. The Japanese commander made the same mistake as RO-116, stayed shallow, made radical turns, believed the Americans couldn't track him. Pendleton's crew had tracked 4 submarines before this one. They knew every evasion tactic, every depth change, every turn pattern. Raby moved in for the kill, but missed with Hedgehog. Division Commander Haynes gave the order again. Go ahead, England. 11:23 p.m. England commenced Hedgehog attack on RO-108. 4 projectiles hit, maybe 6. The explosions came so close together they sounded like one continuous blast. RO-108 broke apart immediately. No slow flooding, no gradual sinking. The pressure hull ruptured at multiple points simultaneously. The submarine imploded. 56 men died in less than 3 seconds, faster than they could process what was happening. Kill number 5, 6 days, 5 submarines, 279 Japanese sailors dead. At Japanese Imperial Navy headquarters in Tokyo, Admiral Toyota reviewed the patrol reports. 7 submarines deployed to the NA line, 5 submarines missing, no distress calls, no emergency transmissions, just silence. 1 submarine every 24 hours. The pattern was obvious. Something was killing his submarines. Something fast, something accurate, something the submarine commanders couldn't evade. Toyota issued new orders to the remaining submarines. RO-105 and RO-109 received the transmission on May 27th. New patrol depth, 400 feet minimum new surface protocol, no battery recharging unless absolutely necessary. New evasion tactic, run silent at first detection, no radical maneuvers. Why no radical maneuvers? Because radical maneuvers made noise. Noise gave sonar operators better tracking data. The Japanese were learning, but they were learning from dead men's mistakes. England, George, and Raby continued northeast. The NA line had 2 submarines left somewhere in 3,000 square miles of ocean. But the tactical situation was changing. 5 kills had depleted England's Hedgehog ammunition. Each attack fired 24 projectiles. 5 attacks meant 120 projectiles expended. England carried 240 rounds total. She had 120 remaining. 5 more attacks, maybe 6 if the crew was careful, and the Japanese submarines were adapting. On May 30th, George detected RO-105 on radar at 9:45 p.m. The submarine dove immediately, but this time the Japanese commander did something different. He went deep, 400 feet, then stopped all engines. Complete silence. No propeller noise. No machinery vibration. Nothing for sonar to detect. England established contact at 2,200 yards, but the signal was weak, intermittent. The submarine was barely moving. Sonar operators called it a knuckle, a patch of disturbed water that created false returns. The submarine could be anywhere within 200 yards of the signal. Pendleton faced a choice: fire Hedgehog at a weak contact and probably miss, wasting 24 precious projectiles, or wait for the submarine to move and give up tactical advantage. He chose to wait. 4 hours passed. The submarine stayed silent. Then at 2:30 a.m. on May 31st, the signal strengthened. RO-105 was moving. Battery power was running out. The electric motors needed recharging. The commander had no choice. He had to surface soon or die anyway. But he had one more trick. One final desperate gamble. RO-105's commander surfaced at 3:15 a.m., but not where England expected. The submarine had drifted with the current during those 4 silent hours, moving 3 miles from her last known position. George's radar caught her at 13,000 yards. Wrong direction, wrong bearing. The hunting group had been searching the wrong grid square. By the time England turned toward the new contact, RO-105 had already crash-dived. The Japanese commander had bought himself 90 seconds of battery charging, enough to add 10% power to his depleted batteries, enough to run. England established sonar contact at 3:45 a.m. RO-105 was running deep and fast at 6 knots, heading northeast away from the hunting group. This commander was good, maybe the best they'd faced. He had studied the previous attacks, learned from 5 dead submarines, knew that staying deep and running fast made Hedgehog attacks difficult. The problem was mathematics. Hedgehog projectiles sank at 23 feet per second. At 400 feet depth, projectiles took 17 seconds to reach target depth. In 17 seconds, a submarine moving at 6 knots traveled 170 feet. The firing solution required predicting where the submarine would be 17 seconds into the future. Predict wrong, and the circular pattern missed completely. Pendleton's first attack at 4:05 a.m. missed by 200 feet. RO-105 had turned during the projectile's descent. Second attack at 4:23 a.m. missed by 100 feet. Better prediction, but still wrong. The submarine was varying her speed, 6 knots, then 4 knots, then 6 knots again, making the mathematics impossible. England had fired 48 projectiles. 120 minus 48 equals 72 projectiles remaining. 3 more attacks, maybe 3.5 if the crew loaded carefully. 3 more chances to kill RO-105 before the ammunition ran out. Division Commander Haynes watched from George. This engagement was different. The previous 5 submarines had died quickly. 2 attacks, 3 attacks maximum. RO-105 had survived 2 attacks and was heading toward a 3rd, maybe a 4th. The Japanese commander was winning the mathematics game. At 4:47 a.m., Pendleton's sonar operator detected something crucial, a pattern. RO-105 turned every 4 minutes, 30 degrees to port, then 30 degrees to starboard. Back and forth. The pattern was consistent, predictable. The Japanese commander thought he was being random, but humans aren't truly random. They fall into patterns. Pendleton adjusted the firing solution, predicted the turn, led the target by 200 feet. Third Hedgehog attack at 5:08 a.m. 24 projectiles splashed into the Pacific and sank into darkness. 4 detonations, maybe 5. Not the massive explosion of previous kills. RO-105's pressure hull was breached but not destroyed. The submarine continued moving, flooding, but not sinking yet. The Japanese commander was executing emergency procedures: blow ballast tanks, surface, abandon ship, save the crew. But England's 4th attack at 5:32 a.m. hit with 8 detonations. The submarine broke apart. Emergency blow stopped. The crew never reached the surface. Oil and debris appeared at 6:15 a.m. after sunrise. Kill number 6. 12 days, 6 submarines, 335 Japanese sailors dead. Admiral Halsey received the report at 3rd Fleet Headquarters. 6 submarines in 12 days. 1 destroyer escort. 1 weapon system that most captains didn't trust. The record was unprecedented, unmatched, almost impossible to believe. Halsey issued new orders on June 1st. Pull England from submarine hunting immediately. 6 kills was enough. The destroyer escort had proven the Hedgehog system beyond any doubt. Every destroyer escort in the Pacific Fleet would receive updated training, updated tactics, updated firing solutions based on England's action reports. 1 submarine remained. RO-109. But she was never found. The submarine had received Toyota's warning after RO-108 died, abandoned her patrol station, and ran deep and silent toward Truk. She survived the war and surrendered in August 1945. Her crew learned about the NA Line massacre months later, learned that 6 of their sister submarines had been destroyed in 12 days by 1 ship using a weapon they'd never heard of. The Presidential Unit citation arrived in July, one of only 3 destroyer escorts to receive the honor during the entire war. The citation read simply, "For extraordinary heroism in action against enemy Japanese submarines." But the words didn't capture what England's crew accomplished. The mathematics did. British forces, 5,174 depth charge attacks, 85 confirmed kills, 1.6% success rate Hedgehog attacks before England's patrol, 5% success rate, 26 attacks per kill. USS England, 6 submarines, approximately 15 total Hedgehog attacks, 40% success rate, 25 times more effective than depth charges, 8 times more effective than the Hedgehog average. The weapon system became standard on every destroyer escort by September 1944. Training protocols changed across the fleet. Sonar operators studied England's tracking techniques. Hedgehog crews practiced England's loading procedures. Fire control officers memorized England's firing solutions. In the Atlantic, Hedgehog sank 47 German U-boats by war's end. 268 attacks, 47 kills, 17.5% success rate. Still the best anti-submarine weapon of the war, but no ship ever matched England's 12-day record. Not in the Atlantic, not in the Pacific, not in any theater. England continued escort duty through the summer of 1944. Convoy protection, carrier screening, anti-submarine patrols. She never found another submarine, never fired Hedgehog in combat again. On October 31, 1944, a kamikaze aircraft hit England off Leyte Gulf. The bomb penetrated the forward engine room, killing 37 crew members and wounding 25 more. The damage was catastrophic. Repairs would take 6 months and cost more than building a new ship. The Navy decided England wasn't worth saving. She was towed to Manus Island, stripped of useful equipment, and sold for scrap in November 1946. The ship that had sunk 6 submarines in 12 days ended her life cut apart in a salvage yard, transformed into razor blades and tin cans. But the record still stands today. 80 years later, England remains the greatest submarine killer in naval history. Lieutenant Commander Walton Pendleton survived the war. He was promoted to commander and given command of an escort division in Alaska, where he spent the final year of the war hunting Japanese submarines in the North Pacific. He never found any. The war ended in August 1945. Pendleton retired from the Navy in 1961 after 34 years of service. He died in 1973 at age 66 and was buried at Arlington National Cemetery. His gravestone mentions the Navy Cross. It doesn't mention the 6 submarines. Doesn't mention the 12 days that changed naval warfare. The Navy kept its promise from Admiral King. Sort of. In October 1963, guided missile destroyer leader USS England was commissioned, hull number DLG-22, later reclassified as CG-22. She served from 1963 until 1994, 32 years, longer than the original England lasted. But when CG-22 was decommissioned in 1994, the name England disappeared from the fleet. Admiral King's promise was broken. There hasn't been a USS England since 1994. The original Hedgehog launcher sits in storage at the National Museum of the United States Navy in Washington, D.C. Rusted. Forgotten. Most visitors walk past without noticing. The placard mentions the weapon's success rate. It doesn't mention England, doesn't mention Pendleton, doesn't mention the 12 days that proved the system worked. Japanese records recovered after the war confirmed all 6 kills: I-16, RO-106, RO-104, RO-116, RO-108, RO-105. Each submarine's final position matched England's attack coordinates exactly. 335 sailors confirmed dead. The Japanese Navy never understood what killed them so fast. Their action reports mentioned explosions above, flooding below, death within minutes. But nobody survived to describe the circular pattern of projectiles, the contact fuses, the forward-throwing mortars that maintained sonar contact throughout the attack. The British developed Hedgehog. The Americans perfected it. England proved it. But history remembers aircraft carriers, battleships, fleet destroyers. The big ships with the big guns. Destroyer escorts were expendable, cheap to build, easy to replace. 700 were built during the war. Most were scrapped within 5 years of peace. England lasted 2 years after the war ended, scrapped at age 2.5. The ship that sank 6 submarines in 12 days wasn't worth the metal she was made from. If this story moved you the way it moved us, do something right now. Hit that like button. Every single like tells YouTube to show this story to more people who need to hear it. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We're rescuing forgotten stories from dusty archives every single week. Stories about sailors who trusted mathematics over tradition. Real people, real heroism, real history. Drop a comment right now and tell us where you're watching from. Texas, Germany, Australia, the United States. Our community stretches across the entire world. You're not just a viewer. You're part of keeping these memories alive. Tell us your location. Tell us if someone in your family served. Just let us know you're here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for making sure USS England and her crew don't disappear into silence. These men deserve to be remembered, and you're helping make that happen.